dear colleagues and opera lovers. I am Maria Zoi from Atelier d'Excellence. Welcome to Prelude, a mini interview series about opera. Today's interview is dedicated to female dramatic voices. Dramatic singers need a sophisticated and resilient vocal technique. This would help them bring the big roles on stage without harming one's voice. The path of a dramatic voice can often be difficult until it comes to bloom. More time and patience is needed in comparison with other voice types. We will discuss some of these challenges today with our guest, American dramatic soprano, Kirsten Chambers. Kirsten is most known for her portrayal of the title role of Salome. She has sung the role with great success at the Metropolitan Opera, Opera Hong Kong, and Florida Grand Opera. Kirsten, welcome.
I'm so happy to be here, Maria, during this unprecedented time.
We are very happy to have you with us. And I would like to start with my first question for you. Could you please talk about your development as a dramatic singer?
I would love to. It's a complicated question. It wasn't really until my late 20s, early 30s that anyone identified me as a dramatic voice. I always had a voice with stamina and projection. No one said I had a small instrument, but I think the way I looked was confusing, and it was very challenging for me to get under my voice and find my support as a young woman. But Maria, I fell in love with this repertoire very early on. I remember not going to my homecoming because I had to watch Wagner's Ring Cycle. In undergraduate school, the music librarian turned the lights off on me because I was listening to Isolde, which coincidentally happened to be the very first role that I would cover at the Metropolitan Opera. I've always had a love for great orchestra, and it's hard to beat Wagner and Strauss when it comes to great orchestration. Maybe Schoenberg, Zemlinsky. But once coaches and voice teachers started to give me bigger and bigger rep, I found my voice opening. I found a real freedom to the singing, and I was able to sing with more flow. And when you sing something like Strauss, you literally feel like you're flying over the orchestra, and there's nothing like it in my opinion. Also, I'm an unusually strong musician who sight reads well and likes a challenge. And so singing something like Salome, it just made sense.
That is very important, the musicality.
The extreme importance.
So do you believe that a dramatic voice can be identified from a young age?
Oh, that's also a tricky one. Yes and no. In my experience, it can be dangerous to identify any voice too young. Reason being that if you learn the repertoire you sing professionally at too young an age, you can build into that repertoire bad habits. As an artist, your vocal development should be growing and your technique should be improving the more you study. You would not want the repertoire you're singing at 45 to be the same technique you had when you were 25. And I have to be honest, I have spent countless hours reprogramming repertoire I sang early in my career and would never want any young artist to go through what I went through. I think that's one reason why learning art song repertoire is so important. You can focus on your technique at the time, build your language, and learn how to communicate your personal story without sacrificing building underdeveloped technical skills into operatic repertoire.
Mm-hmm. What kind of repertoire you must go through in the early stage of vocal development to get there eventually? You said that you mentioned the leader and the arias and all this stuff, and maybe Mozart?
Maybe Mozart. What kind of operatic repertoire to start with? That's an excellent question again, and I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer. As a young artist, I was actually hired to sing dramatic coloratura repertoire. And then not long after that, young dramatic repertoire. So an example of that timeline, when I was a young artist at Opera New Jersey, I was hired to sing some Queen of the Night and cover Violetta. Then not even a year later, the artistic director hired me to cover Turandot, one of the covers of Turandot at Arizona Opera, and do a concert of Wagner. Now, Maria, did my voice change overnight? Of course not. I think that the wisest hiring professionals are more hesitant to pigeonhole young voices, and I think that's actually a good thing. So to identify what repertoire is right in a young voice, you have to determine where the voice sits, stamina-wise. And for me, mine has always sat higher. So singing Strauss ideally became the perfect fit. But normally a young singer who has been told by their voice teacher that they may turn into a Brunhilde or a Salome, they'll likely start with more young dramatic roles like Elsa, Ariadne, Elizabeth, and that repertoire sits more in the middle of the voice. So they can work on developing the area voice of the voice, which I think is most challenging in most female voices, the chest mix.
Kirsten, you are particularly successful in the role of Salome. It is considered a tour de force for a dramatic soprano. However, you will soon make your house debut with Donna Anna at Indianapolis Opera, and you recently sang Catalani's Lorelei with Teatro Grattacielo, New York. Is there a difference in your approach between German and Italian repertoire? And how do you contrast the difficulties of those roles?
For me personally, Maria, I would say that the biggest difference is the language. First, I speak German and not Italian, so it takes me much longer to learn an Italian role. Side note to young artists, especially American singers, your number one priority during this pausa should be to learn another language. Opera is a European art form, and most Europeans speak more than one language. To be a true artist, you can listen and imitate all you like, but you really need an intimate understanding of a language. Okay, so now that I'm off my soapbox, another big difference I would say between German versus Italian music is where they sit. Most of the German roles sit much higher for me than the Italian ones. And so it's actually easier for me to sing technically the German music, and I feel like I'm putting less load on the voice. The difficulties lie also in the length of the roles. For German repertoire like Wagner, you can be singing for 4.5 hours a night, but the rep sits a little higher, so that's what makes the stamina easier. I find myself singing more open chest and a heavier, higher chest mix with the Italian repertoire. And I'll have to tell you a secret, Maria. During this pausa, I've actually been working more on my chest mix. And so I've been singing more Italian verismo than German repertoire. I've also been doing a lot of mirror work, trying to separate the movement of my jaw from the tongue, as these actions seem a little more profound in the Italian repertoire for me personally. Also, I would say emotionally, the storytelling is a little different. For Italian, I tend to take more chances vocally and really feel the character's emotions on a physical level. And also, I'm working on that late, fast portamenti. You rarely sing those in Wagner, but sometimes in Strauss you do. So for the German roles, I think I feel think more cerebrally as an actress. I do more word painting, and I find my technique is less impaired. You mentioned earlier about the Donna, and present-day dramatic sopranos really don't always sing Mozart, but I've gone back to working on it, and I find it's very helpful, keeping the voice fresh and flexible. Even when I sang dramatic coloratura rep when I was very young, I had so much trouble with those triplets in the Queen of the Night. I used to practice them every day, but I still find, even with right now at my current age and development, I have to practice the coloratura slowly every single day with the metronome, and I can do it cleanly and in tempo, but only if I practice it every day. I know those Mozart recits are such a challenge, where they sit and how they must be colored with emotion and yet not impair the technique. I'm still working on that. I cannot have anything in my repertoire, my audition repertoire, with coloratura unless I am practicing it every day. I almost, if I miss a day or 2 days, I can really tell right away. It's something very important for me to keep fresh in the voice.
Mm-hmm. Great tip for everybody and for potential dramatic singers who have, especially them, to keep the voice flexible and light. So most of the roles of your repertory, the Wagner and Strauss repertory, they require an enormous power and projection from the singer.
Yes.
Could you please share with our audience what steps do you take to protect your voice, maintain your stamina, and keep cool while preparing and performing for those roles?
I love sharing tips about vocal and emotional health. It's a real passion of mine. I've had a lot of failings as a singer, which have turned out to be actually very positive, because now I can share and encourage other students more because of my experience. The inner experience of the artist is one of my favorite topics, and it's sorely overlooked by most university study. It's really important to find real fulfillment in the craft and the work that you do. The more internal and mindful you are about your journey and not about the results of getting to your next gig, I think the happier you will be. Okay, the steps I take to protect my voice. Other than drinking a lot of water, I don't really think there's any steps, or I try not to scream the day I'm going to give a performance. I've always had pretty strong stamina, even in school with a terrible technique, to be honest. I didn't really get tired vocally. I can sing sick, I can sing on no sleep, but what is difficult for me and what does affect my experience of singing is my struggle with perfectionism. That I would say has affected a lot of things for me as a singer. I remember fondly my international debut as Elsa in Savonlinna, Finland. Finally, my dream had come true. I was with this loving, immensely talented cast, a brilliant stage director, career-launching conductor, yet I wasn't sleeping. I was dragging myself through rehearsals, and I kept looking for others for approval instead of looking within, doing the work, and knowing that the work I did already was good enough. What I ended up finding that was really helpful to me was sound healing. My friend Magda, who's a German opera singer, is a sound healer, and she uses music to actually heal trauma. And once we discovered where this shadow energy was coming from, we journeyed back, and this sounds a little crazy, but we journeyed back to my childhood to heal it through sound. And I now find incredible fulfillment as a professional artist. I can sleep through the night, even through the most challenging of times like we're experiencing now. And I'm taking Magda's course, Divine Parent, this month. So if any singers want to sign up, Maria, can we include it in the link below the video?
Of course.
Wonderful.
Gladly, yes.
It's a wonderful way, especially since it involves sound and song, doing sound healing with another opera singer who really understands the unique journey that we go through.
I think all of the artists have to work with their spirituality in a healthy way, but it's an important part of our art. It's not only the vocal technique and exercising and doing all the right things. It is also working on the inside. We are not artists if we don't work on this. It's my opinion, at least.
No, I agree. There's some people, you have to find your voice. And I think one of the reasons that I had difficulties really finding my support and getting under my voice when I was a young woman is that I hadn't found my voice as a person. I I hadn't found that spiritual voice of who I really was. And until I did, I couldn't really fully express myself as an artist. And getting the right kind of healing or therapy really helped me feel comfortable about who I was and what I wanted to share and what was special about me. Because we all have something unique and special to share. But and it's a risk. I mean, it's a risk to share who you really are as an artist. That I think it's a risk that all singers must take.
But some people say that we are like naked on the stage. So if we are about to be so exposed, we have to prepare from before. Otherwise, it's a shock. You cannot deal with that.
Yes. I mean, as Salome,
I think
I've been naked on stage, but emotionally naked, that's much more difficult. That's much more difficult. I always feel naked when I'm singing from my soul.
However, you are an inspirational example of an artist remaining active and productive in those difficult times that we are living, the COVID-19 era, COVID-19 gloom and doom.
Who would have thought, Maria? Yes.
But you remain productive both as a performer and as a vocal coach. Would you like to share with us your future plans in both fields?
Yes, I'm very excited to be coaching many young singers at several international festivals this year. Next month, I will be teaching virtually voice lessons with the International Summer Opera Festival of Morelia, along with some phenomenally famous friends and singer colleagues.
It is really a very distinguished team of people.
Oh, it is. Eileen Perez, Jennifer Rowley, who's a dear friend of mine, Kristen Opolais, David Lomali. You'll get to prepare roles from Figaro, Bohème. You receive a recording with orchestra, which young singers, that is vital to getting hired.
And we can now announce that we are going to have you for a webinar with Atelier d'Excellence also. And we are very excited for that.
My favorite thing is working with young singers. I'm so excited to work with the up-and-coming dramatic voices.
Kirsten, do you have any singing plans? I know it's very difficult to predict, but are you dreaming of doing something, at least in the near future?
I am. But actually, there's one more festival actually that I'll be teaching at.
Of course,
later in the fall and winter. I'll be teaching live alongside my brilliant voice teacher, Emilio Pons, and a very sexy opera conductor, my husband, Keith Chambers, in Zanzbar, Germany, which is about an hour from Frankfurt. And it's an amazing villa with 10, I think there's like 10 pianos there. It's right on the Rhine, with a beach. It's absolute paradise. And for many young artists, fall may be the time to move to Germany. There are more opera houses there than anywhere else in the world. They may be opening up faster than the US. The audition program I'm teaching at in Germany teaches you how to speak German and work with hiring professionals. I sang for 16 intendants at the program last summer, which was only a month, and it was well worth the investment. My belief, young singers, is that doing a FEST program in Germany often makes more sense than doing a YAP. Instead of covering or singing small roles, you are performing lead roles and learning a language at the same time. Plus, the audition experience can be a little more human over there. You get a practice room, you have time to rehearse with a pianist, and you get to sing on their stage, so they get to hear what you really sound like. And yes.
Thank you particularly for this advice, because we are going to visit this issue of the young artist programs, or opera studios as they are called in Europe. We're going to visit it as an objective in our next interviews and webinars with Atelier d'Excellence. So it's good to have different opinions. I don't know what our future guests are going to say, but since they are already members in these programs, but it's very important to have your opinion too.
Yes, and again, you can inquire on my website or Facebook or Instagram, but you're right, this is a very unexpected time, so it's hard to know what to expect. And you asked about performing wise, Maria.
Yes, I mean,
What's coming up?
what you said before about the advice, that it's
Yes,
preferable to be in a small or medium theater in Germany than in a young artist
yes.
program. It is important to hear, yes.
Yes, I think right now also we can be more socially distanced in a small house. And I think I've found that my friends who are in fest programs that have already started up,
Mm-hmm.
they've been a little more creative about how they're handling the pandemic and how they're keeping their audience and their singers and their instrumentalists and their staff safe. So I hope we can all get creative to find ways, whether virtually or live, to stay safe and still sing.
Smaller ensembles are going to be the solution for the near future,
Yes,
because we see now
absolutely.
institutions like the Met that has 4,000 seats, they are
Yes,
finding difficulties in functioning with 400 seats. It's almost impossible, so they prefer staying closed than doing something. So theaters that are more flexible are more likely to survive in the next
Ex-
months, let's hope.
yes, I agree. I'd rather you try to do something than just cancel and do nothing if it's possible, but it's easier for smaller theaters to do that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have something to wish to the young people or to aspiring dramatic singers like you were
Oh,
once?
I just wish that all young singers find freedom in their voice and fulfillment with this craft. And I wish them hope. I've had a lot of young singers call me who just graduated from university saying, "Oh my goodness, Kirsten, what should I do? Should I be practicing? What's the next step?" And well, the good news is that most of us are available. This is a time to make connections with people. You can have Zoom lessons with that conductor that you've always wanted to work with. Now is the time to make connections. Now is the time to make a fabulous recording. Recordings have gotten me hired. And I think to keep working, to be putting a beautiful vibration in the air, I think that brings healing, real healing to the world. So don't give up hope just yet.
Beautiful advice. I think everybody is available to offer something in our community right now. With my effort, I have faced no denial till now. Everybody that I invite, they're very willing and very generous in offering what they have to offer, and I'm very happy to see that our community has this solidarity and everybody is behaving like that.
We're all in this together.
Yes, we must not forget that. In this way, we are going to go back more easily and we're going to sleep better in the night.
Performing wise, stay tuned. There are some unique projects in the works. I'm going to be doing an opera film. A new musical is happening hopefully on Broadway. More Mozart, some recitals, among other larger works still to be announced. So fingers crossed.
It sounds exciting, even better than before COVID-19.
So
I'm very glad for you.
More diverse, definitely.
I'm very glad for you. I would like to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your path with us and being full of light. We need this inspiration during these days. I wish you reappear on stage very soon again.
Pleasure, Maria.
Let's thank our audience for their attendance. Keep safe, be well, till next time that we meet at Prelude. Goodbye.